If I asked you to hand me your phone right now and I opened your camera roll, what would your summer look like? Well, I'd probably see your vacation or a dinner with some old friends. I'd see your kids, your spouse, your dogs, a sunset that you wanted to remember, a screenshot of a quote that you forgot that you saved, and probably more than a few pictures that you meant to delete. Well, your camera roll could tell me a lot about your summer, but it couldn't tell me the whole story. It wouldn't show me the conversation that changed something or the person that you finally told what they meant to you. It wouldn't show the boundary that you realized that you needed or the day that you rested without trying to earn it first. And it wouldn't show the moment you recognized that thing about yourself that you can't unsee now. Some of the most important things that happened this summer never made it into a picture. And before we rush into fall, I don't want you to miss them because they may be the very things that you need to take with you. Hi, friend. If we haven't met yet, I'm Christina Ryan, a faith-based purpose and leadership coach. I help you identify the lies holding you back and replace them with truth so that you can live and lead with clarity. And this is the final week of Summer on Purpose. 12 weeks ago, we started with one invitation. Don't just let summer happen. Live it on purpose. And now that we're here, well, I don't want to give you just a 12-week book report. I want to help you notice your story inside of it. And if you stay with me in this episode, you'll walk away with 3 leadership keys that will help you recognize what this summer gave you and carry the right things with you into fall. Because the goal was never to complete a Summer on Purpose checklist. It was to live your summer on purpose. So let's go back through that camera roll. Only this time, we're looking for the things that you couldn't photograph. And here's the first key. Remember who you are. Roots was the beginning for a reason. Before we talked about your relationships or your leadership or your calendar or your rest or your direction, we started underneath all of that with identity. Who you are when you strip all the labels away. We asked some uncomfortable questions about who you are without the title or the roles and what may have been driving you that wasn't even true. Underneath all of that, we were looking for the best of what you already bring. Because if you don't know who you are, then almost anything can tell you who to be. Your title will, other people's expectations will, success or failure, even a hard Tuesday will tell you if you let it. And maybe that's one of the things that this summer gave you, that your camera roll can't show. You started noticing the difference between who you are and the things that had been defining you. You may have named a label that you've been carrying too tightly or recognized a belief that had been making decisions for you. Or maybe you finally found language for something that has been true about you for years. And that's worth remembering as you head into fall. Because pressure has a way of making those old untrue stories sound true again. Like, I have to prove myself. I can't let anyone down. I don't have this figured out and I'm falling behind. Well, friend, that's where your roots work matters. Instead of letting the moment define you, you can notice what's happening and ask one question. What does this say about me? The answer may tell you that there's something to change, help you need to ask for, or an old fear that's gotten louder than the truth. And you can learn from what happened without turning it into a verdict about who you are. So as summer ends, hold on to what you know about yourself that you didn't know or didn't trust back in May. Because when you know what's true about who you are, you have somewhere to stand when the pressure starts telling you a different story. And that leads us to our first leadership shift. When you know who you are, pressure doesn't get to name you. But roots were only the beginning. Once you became clearer about who you are, well, then you start noticing how you affect the people around you and what the people you lead actually experience from you. And that's where Summer on Purpose took us next. It's key number 2, relationships. The relationships phase asked us to remember who matters. We talked about the people who shaped you, the words that you hadn't said yet, and the people that you're responsible for leading, and where your energy was actually going. We even talked about the relationships that may have reached the end of their chapter. Because purpose doesn't end with knowing yourself. It's the best of what you bring to the people around you. Philippians 2 verse 4 says it like this: not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others. That's leadership. And sometimes it looks a lot less impressive than we might make it sound. It can look like putting the phone down and just asking one more question, or telling someone what you see in them. Setting a boundary when continuing the same way isn't healthy. Or saying the thing while you still have the chance. None of those moments would necessarily stand out on your camera roll. But the people who were a part of your summer may have shown you something about the way that you lead. You may have noticed how quickly you move into fixing instead of listening. How much energy you've spent trying not to disappoint someone. Or what changes when you slow down long enough to tell someone what you see in them. And you may have discovered that some of the best things that you bring as a leader have very little to do with your title and everything to do with how people experience you. So here's the question I want you to carry from the relationships. How did the people around me experience me differently because I chose to be present? You may not know exactly what changed for them, and you don't need to, but you can pay attention to what changed in you. Because fall will get full, and when it does, the people that you care about can start feeling like one more thing competing for your attention. Before the calendar starts deciding where all of you goes, remember who matters and what you learned about the way that you want to be with them. And that brings us to the second leadership shift. Purpose gets personal when the people in front of you can experience it. But there's a limit that we also discovered. Well, you can't be fully present everywhere, giving your energy to everyone, or keep giving from a life with no room left in it. Eventually, you have to stop long enough to notice what's costing you, what's restoring you, and what needs to change. And that's where the final part of Summer on Purpose took us. And it's our third key: renewal. Remember what you learned. Renewal began by creating room. We started with rest and the practice of Sabbath because it's hard to hear what's going on underneath the noise when you never stop long enough to notice. Then we looked at what summer had been showing you. And last week, we took notice of the direction that you're starting for fall. And that's the progression that I want you to remember. Rest gave you room. Reflection gave you clarity, and clarity gave you direction. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens." Summer had a purpose, and fall will too. You can end one without leaving behind what it taught you. You now know more about what restores you and what drains you. and you've had a chance to notice where your energy is going, what needs more margin, and what you want to carry differently into the fall. The challenge is now not letting urgency bury that clarity. Fall fills the calendar pretty quickly and everything starts feeling important again. It's easy to go back to making every decision from scratch. And that's where reflection becomes practical. When you know what matters, you reduce the number of decisions competing for your attention. Instead of asking, what am I supposed to do with all of this? Every time that life gets full, you have context for the next choice. You remember what you've learned about yourself and your people and your limits and your direction. You're not starting from scratch every time something changes, and one clear decision can make the next one easier. So you don't need to leave this summer with your whole fall figured out. You need to remember enough of what became clear to make the next decision from there. And that brings us to the final leadership shift. Reflection turns experience into direction. We weren't collecting 12 weeks of information. We were paying attention to real life so that what happened here could change how we live with what comes next. And now we get to gather it all up. So go back to that camera roll one more time. There are moments that you'd forgotten until you started scrolling, and others that no picture could capture. The pictures can remind you where you went and who was there, but they can't show you what changed in you while you were living those moments. And the story you tell yourself about that matters. You can look back through the lens of everything you didn't do and you didn't finish and you still don't have figured out. Or you can look at what actually happened. You paid attention. You learned something about who you are and how you want to lead. You noticed the people around you. You made room for what mattered, and you have clarity you didn't have before. You don't need to hold on to summer. You need to remember what it gave you. So here's one permission as we finish. You can let summer end and trust what became clear while you were here. Now, before we finish this series, I want to give you one simple way to mark it. One word, one sentence, and one truth. Choose one word that describes your summer on purpose. Then write one sentence about what this summer taught you. And finally, name one truth that you're carrying into the fall. The final Summer on Purpose reflection guide is linked below if you want a place to work through those. This isn't another assignment to finish, friends. It's a marker that lets you look back and say, I was here, I paid attention, and I lived this summer on purpose. We've also talked a lot about light throughout this series, and now that we've reached the end, we can see the whole picture. In Roots, we uncovered it by separating who you are from the labels and roles and beliefs that had been sitting on top of it. In Relationships, we turned it up as we looked at the people who draw out the best in you and the people who experience that light through the way that you love and you lead. And in Renewal, we turned it on by making room to rest and notice and choose direction. And now you get to take that light with you into the office, your home, the meetings, the conversations you still need to have, and those decisions still in front of you. Jesus says in Matthew 5:16, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. That's where the light goes, into real life through the way you live and the way that you lead. There's a quote from the amazing Dolly Parton that sums all of this up. Find out who you are and do it on purpose. I can't think of a better way to describe what we've spent doing this whole summer. Find out who you are and live it on purpose. So here's our final challenge. I want to know your hashtag Summer on Purpose moment. Think back across these 12 weeks and choose the moment that stayed with you. It might have come from one of the weekly challenges. Maybe it was a conversation, a day of rest, a boundary, a truth that you wrote down, or even a decision that you made differently. Share it in the comments. And if you share it on social media, use hashtag SummerOnPurpose so I can find it and celebrate with you. And thank you for spending part of your summer with me. You didn't just watch, you gave yourself room to think and reflect and talk and rest and notice and bring some of these questions into your real life. If there's an episode from this series that you know someone in your life needs, send it to them. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe and stay with me. Summer on Purpose may be ending, but living and leading on purpose isn't. Until next time, live and lead with light on purpose.